Hey, so we're going to go over some things about the course really quickly. Let me turn on my laser pointer here. There we go. And this will be really your first video since the intro video, I guess. All right, so just a little bit about me. I said that we learn a little bit more. Well, number one, I drink a ton of coffee, so probably every video that I make, I'll be drinking coffee or water. Sometimes, if it's later in the day. So I was born in Arizona. I was born in Mesa. I've lived in Arizona pretty much my whole life. There's some brief times when I wasn't here. Like, I lived in Alabama for a while. But most of the time is spent here. I graduated from Hamilton, so let me know. Actually, when I look at the map, I was going to say let me know if you went to Hamilton, but when I look at the map of where everybody is, I don't think anybody actually probably even knows what a Hamilton is. So, I guess it's the name of a president, so you probably know about that. But it's also a school here in Arizona. It's a high school. But if you did, for some reason, graduate from there, let me know. I also got my Bachelor's of Science at ASU, my Master's at ASU, and my PhD at ASU. And the PhD was actually in cognitive science, not in speech and hearing. But my specialization was sensation and perception. So basically you can think about that as, well, first of all, I think when you hear psychology, you think like Dr. Phil, right? And like, let's go sit on a couch and talk about your problems. Not remotely close to what I was doing at all. What I do is a little bit closer to, so psychology is all about experience, right? And we can think about that in terms of clinical psychology, where you do help people with their problems. Those are experiences, that they've had, like post-traumatic stress disorder or something like that. But in the cognitive science area, we're kind of more looking at like, how do we actually process stimuli coming in. So we do a lot of brain imaging, fMRI work, EEG work, stuff like that. So we want to see like how the brain is functioning when you hear a certain kind of sound or when you see a certain kind of visual stimulus. And then we also don't just do imaging. We also kind of care about like, what's the actual, what do you get? So if we show you a certain group of colors together, what do you see? And that might be different than what we would think you should see based on the combination of colors we're shooting. So that's the perception part. I focused especially on the auditory system, but I also did a lot of color vision and, basically everything. Proprioception, moving around space, all sorts of things like that. I will definitely tell you more throughout the course of the course. Man, I feel like I've said that before, and it always sounds weird. About my work. So we'll talk about that. I won't go into it now. Not my auditory work, anyway. Right now, I'm a member of SAMBA, which stands for the Science of Art, Music, and Brain Activity. It is a joint project between the music department at ASU, the cognitive psychology group that I used to be a part of, applied psychology, which is at Polytech campus. Again, most of you aren't from Arizona, so you probably don't know about Polytech campus. That's okay. Speech and hearing, which is where I am now. It's a fun group. If anybody's interested in joining a meeting, you can just come and see what we talk about. We don't meet a ton over summer, but we do meet occasionally. And then I think we're also all virtually attending a timbre conference. Timbre is a dimension of sound that is not frequency and intensity. And it's mostly what we're all working on right now is, timbre. And so you could potentially come see what that's all about too. It's free to register for the conference. Like I said, it's virtual, so you can just log in from anywhere. And then email me if you're interested about coming to a Samba meeting. I also work at something called Sci-Hub, which is a group started by Nobel Prize winner Frank Wilczek. He actually got his Nobel Prize in physics. He's interested in color, and so then he started working with my former mentor who brought me in. So it's another multidisciplinary group combining physics, engineering, psychology, and speech and hearing. And then, this is a totally different area. I'm also a published fiction author, so when there are going to be some writing assignments in the class, I'll try to hit you really hard with why writing is important for the speech and hearing professions. I mean, I'll give you a little taste of it right now, but you're going to have to write reports. If you're a SLP, you're going to have to write reports for wherever you work for, the hospital, the school, whatever. They're going to need a report of when you see a client. If you are an audiologist, you're also going to have to write reports. If you end up going into the research side of things like I did, you have to write academic papers. So there's really no way that you can get around writing. And the better you write and the more professionally you write, the more professional you look, and the better you'll be at your job, the quicker you'll rise up the ranks and get all them sweet monies. So, okay, anyway, here's a really quick look at something else that I'm doing, which I think is super fun and is vaguely related to speech and hearing. So these are plots. These are called recurrence plots. But essentially what you do is you take the notes of a song and they go down one side. So they go like down here. And then you take the exact same notes of the song and you put them across here. And what you can see is how similar the song is to itself. So you can see areas where this is What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. And you can see that things will repeat. So there will be a verse, and then that verse will repeat. And then you've got this chorus right here that doesn't repeat. It's kind of unique to the song. It doesn't repeat anywhere. And then you've got another verse, and it's the same again. So you can see that you have something that repeats, a structure that repeats again, a structure that repeats again. And this area that doesn't seem to repeat at all. And this is Yesterday by the Beatles. It's slightly more got a repetitive structure to it than this Louis Armstrong song. This is a bird song. This is where it starts to get very interesting, I think. What's cool about that is the bird song doesn't look all that different from Yesterday by the Beatles. There's parts where there are similarities. So this area right here looks a lot like this area right here. These kind of blocky areas that kind of look like maybe they've shifted, like they've glitched out. They look similar to some areas in this song, but then notice that they don't take over the entire bird song. It's just in certain parts. You've also got these like little wispy areas, and what those show is that there is similarity, just like in these diagonal lines here, but they don't really follow exactly the same time as earlier in the song, the bird song or the bird call. And that kind of makes sense too. I mean, humans are very concerned with time and keeping everything on time. The birds are a little bit less concerned, but they do repeat the structure of their song. This is a bird with an HVC lesion. The HVC in birds is akin to some of the speech structures in the human brain. I should say the HVC is in the bird brain. I don't remember what it stands for, but that's okay. It's essentially the same thing as, it's kind of like this bird has a type of aphasia. Particularly like a Wernicke's aphasia, which you'll see later in this class. So the bird kind of has a Wernicke's aphasia, and what you see that manifest as is it doesn't have any of that repeating structure. There's none of these wispy bits. There's no diagonal lines. It's just that chunky block-like structure, which this bird had this is a normal bird. It had that here, but then it did other things too. And that exists in human songs as well, but then it does other things too. And then all this bird with the HVC lesion does is that repetitive structure. And by repetitive, I don't mean like an area that repeats. I mean, you can see that the dark bars are things where it's one sound that's repeated constantly, and then the white areas are areas where there is no similar structure at all. So it's either completely the same or then very random in these areas, which is not what you see in a typical bird song or a human song. Typical bird songs look much more like human songs than these HVC lesions. So that's something I've been working on for a while. Oh, shoot, I forgot to take this out. This is about my Grad TA. So we won't talk about that. You'll have access to these slides, and what I want you to do is go to this link. In every video that you watch, including this one, there's going to be a word. If you took this class with me in, the actual semester, then it's a word of the day. Every time we would meet, you'd put in a word, and that's how you'd get your attendance points. For you, it's not really a word of the day. I mean, it is a word, and it's in a day, so I guess it's a word of the day. But it's just a word hidden within a lecture that you can put in to get attendance points. So at some point in every lecture, I'll jump in, or one of our guest lecturers will say your word of the day is, or on the screen a word will pop up, and that's the word that you'll put in. So go to this link. It's going to bring you to a Google form. What it wants to know is your ASU ID number and the word of the day. If you bookmark this and just have it up when you're listening to these, then all you have to do is pop the word in and click submit. And that's how, one of the ways that you'll get points for listening to the lectures. Okay. Attendance, we don't, there will not be attendance. You're not attending anything. But that's basically the participation things. Is there anything else I wanted to tell you about here? I don't think so. But anyway, it all happens through that link. All the participation points happen through that link. Sometimes it's putting in a word of the day. Sometimes it's answering a poll. Sometimes it's, anything else. So there could be questions that we'll ask, or there's putting a word down, whatever. There are homeworks. There's going to be 3 written assignments throughout the course. You're going to turn them in on Canvas, just as usual. The first one, I want you to think about challenges that you think you might face in your chosen career field. So if you want to be an SLP, I want you to think about challenges that you might see in that field. If you're an AUD, I want you to think about challenges you might see there. If you want to go into research, what do you think might be a challenge there? We'll talk about some of those when we talk about careers. So you can use that lecture. You can use the book. You can also look on the ASHA website. Your second homework is going to be a deep dive into a disorder. So you're going to pick a disorder that you really enjoy. That's kind of a weird way to say that. You'll pick one that you enjoy learning more about, I guess. So it could be autism. It could be fluency disorders. It could be single-sided deafness, anything like that. Anything that we have talked about up to that point or will talk about in future lectures. Or even something that's, a speech and hearing related disorder that we don't talk about through the course of this class. You can also research that as well. So that's, I think, a multi-pager, probably a 2 or 3 page thing. We'll see. I have a rubric written up, but I didn't commit it to memory, even though I've taught this class quite a few times. Then the last one is more fun, and you can do it with your family or friends or anything like that. You could do one of those, even if you're still quarantined at that point. You could do the Netflix watch party, so you can watch the movie with other people. But what you're going to do is you're going to watch a movie about a communication disorder. I mean, so Rain Man is a possibility. What's another possibility? I Am Sam, Hush, Quiet Place. All these have speech and hearing disorders in them. What I want you to do is watch the movie and then talk about how that disorder is portrayed in the movie and then how accurate it is. So that should be a little bit more of a fun assignment to end on. There are quizzes. There's going to be a quiz every 2 weeks. No, there's going to be a quiz at the end of every week. What am I talking about? There's a quiz at the end of every week. There's an exam at the end of every 2 weeks. Those are going to be quizzes on Blackboard. I guess I wrote this back when we were still using Blackboard. The quizzes are on Canvas, obviously. It says that on the syllabus, quizzes are listed on their due date. That's sort of true, not really. Just it's at the end of every week. So every Sunday through the next 8 weeks, you will have a quiz due at the end of the week. Take it, you get points. That's great. You're going to have 2 attempts in these quizzes. What I want you to do on the first attempt is theoretically it's open book. There's no time limit. There's no Respondus lockdown browser or anything like that. But what I want you to do is, the first time you take it, just take it. See what you get. The second time, pull your book out and then get all the questions right. That'll help you know what you don't know, because those are going to show up again on the exam. We talked about this in the welcome video as well. There's 4 exams. There's approximately 50 questions on each one, but it's really more like 42-ish. The final exam is exactly the same as the other 3. So it's just 4 exams, even though one's a final. It's not cumulative or anything. And the lowest of those 4 is dropped. Like I said in the welcome video, if you like the 3 scores that you have, you don't even have to take the 4th one. But you can, and just see how you do. Totally up to you. Whatever it is, the lowest one's dropped. So if you totally miss one, it's a 0. You do the other 3, the 0 gets dropped. Hey, DRC Accommodations. I've gotten a couple emails from the DRC, so I know some of you have talked to them already, and that's good. And I mean, some of these are, obvious. Like, there are some disabilities that that you're going to need to talk to the DRC about. This DRC stands for Disability Resource Center. This one pretty much only pertains to when I teach it on ground. You don't need accommodation for a broken leg in an online class. Although, I mean, if it happens, it's painful and you'll have to maybe get it fixed. So I'll give you like a week extension if something crazy like that happens. But there's other things like test anxiety and other sneaky like emotional problems and things like that. And if you feel like you could benefit from, the DRC, it doesn't hurt to talk to them. If they think that you qualify for something, they will help you with it. And if they don't think you qualify for it, they're not going to give you anything, but it doesn't cost you anything to see if there's an accommodation you can get. So if you do have something, test anxiety, etc., talk to them and just see what can happen. In terms of academic dishonesty, don't do it. The very lightest punishment that you can get is a 0 on the assignment. All of your written assignments go through something that checks them for plagiarism. And then also there are websites where you can kind of plagiarize something, but then it'll use a like a dictionary to or a thesaurus to change some of the words around so it doesn't look like it's plagiarized. But this thing will check out different perturbations of those words and it can still show up. So don't do that. Just write it. If you're not a good writer, it's okay. You're still going to get points for doing it, even if you don't get full points. But if you plagiarize and, we find out, then the lightest punishment is a 0, and the heaviest punishment is like an XE on your transcript, which is not good for getting into jobs and potentially, getting expelled too. So it's better to turn in work that maybe isn't as good as other people than it is to plagiarize. You're still going to get points, even if it's not the best job that I've ever seen. All right. There's also an academic integrity agreement on Canvas. Most of you have already taken that, so good job. No, office hours don't exist right now, except on Slack. So we use Slack. I showed you Slack on the other thing, and that's where the office hours are. Although I think I'm changing the time. It seems like it works better for some of my other classes and some other meetings I have if we change it to Tuesdays at 1:30, from 1:30 to 3. I'll send you an announcement about that if we're changing it for sure. But that could be a possibility. All right. That's it for this lecture. You made it. Hooray. I'll see you probably soon when you watch some of the other ones.